you may also like. A show about the things you may also like. Things like...
Kate,
Yes.
how did you get into comedy?
Oh, that's a great story. You know what? It was so interesting. I never thought about being a comic, although I did try it at a school thing when I was 17, where I dressed up and I didn't write it, but I did this thing called I think it was called Co-Pilot. And I learned like this monologue, this funny monologue. And then it wasn't until I was 29 and I had two kids. I was living in this neighborhood that was just very like residential. And I would have to, and there was this one mini mall that I would have to pass by to get to my best friend's house every day. And it was called the Comedy Wood. And it was run by Boris the Hypnotist. I swear to God. But it was like literally the only place open late at night that I could go get a drink. Not that I was like, I had two babies, but I just needed to get out of the house. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go there. And as I'm watching at this open mic, I just thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And then the next week I went back, got up, did it, and never looked back really. I was at Yuk Yuk's the next week, but it was a very small community then. Like you literally had to, there was no YouTube. This was 1998 and there was no YouTube really yet. The internet was just sort of the Comedy Network was just launching. And so if you wanted to see live comedy, you had to go see it. So, and it almost became like not only, something I was really passionate about, but also my social life. I still have great friends within the community. I'm still doing stand up. So, but it's definitely been, it's just been this magical ride. I literally walked in that night and just started doing it every week. And I still go to open mics to this day to try new stuff.
I don't know that I could do that without a drink in me. Did you have a drink in you?
I did not. I was a mom. My kids were little. I literally didn't actually drink really until my 30s. So I'm making up for it.
I'm thinking you've got two kids and
I have three. You
have three now.
Yes.
Yeah. You had two at the time.
Yeah.
And inside, listen, when you're a mom, when you're a parent, but specifically a mom, because you're going to spend, predominantly a ton of time with the kids, it gets really boring to talk to these babbling little things all the time. And then your creative juices back up and it's got to come out. And
yeah, it definitely came out in story time. I was so young. I was only, when I first had my kids, I was 24 and 25, the first two. The third one came along at 30. But it definitely, I was really playful, and we lived in such a shitty house. Can I swear? I don't even know. We lived in this shitty house, and it was so literally, and it was all like the baseboard heating. So we couldn't afford the heating, so we had a fireplace where we just like burned stuff. And the kids would ride their bikes in the house. Like that's how shitty this house was. But there was like, the kitchen was open, so it had the two doors, so they just ride around. And it was definitely like I was playful and all that, but it was definitely nice talking to adults, and just having a conversation that wasn't about, Sailor Moon was huge at the time and and stuff like that. So it was just, it was really a gift for sure.
Cable in Canada began to take off. And so you've got some choice for the kids. There's some YTV, there's some Treehouse. Yes. And at the same time, there's another channel that comes on, and that's comedy.
Yes.
And, the comedic ecosystem in Canada really at a peak in the 90s. It really begins to sort of bring on all these new comedians, yourself included.
Yeah.
And there was a gateway with Yuk Yuk's. So talk about that era.
Oh, I was sort of the late 90s for sure. But that's when the Comedy Network launched and all that. I remember Jon Stewart being there that night. And when it launched, and it was a huge thing. And it was, and they promoted Canadian comics then. Like Mike Bullard, he just passed away. but he had the Mike Bullard show, which was our late night show. I did 2 spots on that as a new comic, which was like so thrilling. There was Minnie Holmes had a show, She's So Funny, which was out there. Like there was room to support us. I started with Yucks. I was a headliner with them for over 12 years. It was a really great time just being on the road and, just learning the chops, because there's so many comedy classes now. But back then I would just go to see every Friday, go see the headliner, just try and learn as much as I could to actually learn to write a joke and figure out who I was. And it took a long time. I wish I was more confident, because I find like men have so much game. And I just didn't have that game, but I had the chops, but no, so it was interesting.
Who became your friends in comedy circles?
It was definitely like Kenny Robinson, who's just from Winnipeg, by the way. Like, he was such a huge part of my early comedy career. He ran this room, this open mic called The Groundhog. And every Tuesday I would go there, and there would be a $300 cash money for it. And it was so all the pros would show up, and it would just be like this incredible night and it was just full with like homeless people and dominatrix. Like, it was a rough bar, but it was so much fun. And I literally did that room every Tuesday for 2 years. But then I was doing like the same set, afraid to and Kenny just pulled me aside. He's like, you got to do new material. You can't do this anymore. And it was just so just learning, and they were so gracious, and yeah, it was pretty amazing.
So let's talk about new material. When someone says that, or it's time to turn over and get some new stuff and remove some things, there's a writing process that goes into that.
There is, definitely. It comes in waves. I almost feel like it's like incubation. I feel like the jokes are all sort of growing in me, and then all of a sudden I'll write a new set. And when I say write a new set, probably 5 minutes. It took me literally, I think, 2 years to write a good first 5 minutes without having a class and a structure or any of that. But definitely, I find jokes, I have jokes that I do in my keynote speaking that are just not politically correct anymore. I have one joke about my about life insurance, because it says on my life insurance policy, it says on everyone's life insurance policy that you're not allowed to commit suicide for the first 2 years. But after that, you're covered. Right? And that's just a fact. It says it in everyone. And I'm like, well, if that's true, one of us can take it and things don't work out, one of us can take it for the team. And it's not going to be me. I'll be like, kids, daddy's dead, but we're going to Disneyland. So jokes like that, I'm not doing anymore. The times have changed, and so I like moving with the times. I know iPhone jokes, OnlyFans jokes, things change, new stuff shows up, and it's just not relevant anymore.
Have you had a moment where maybe you were on a campus, or maybe you were in a setting that was probably a little bit younger than you were used to, as kind of like, oh, this is off color?
You know what? No, because my kids keep me in check, and they're all in their 20s now. So it's definitely, it's, I never had that. And I'm pretty self-aware and emotionally aware. I'm pretty, I can read a room. So, if I have to be delicate and, or if I can be myself, as I like to call it. So I really, I'm still going to open mics. One of my newest jokes is, have you ever been so wasted your face ID on your phone doesn't recognize you? Right? You're trying to look in your phone. You're like, it's like your phone saying, I don't even know who you are right now. And you're not drunk dialing anyone. Yeah. No.
If the phone was nicer, it'd probably suggest you have Bell's palsy.
Maybe.
You are having a stroke. Please report to the hospital.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So yeah, so it's interesting, and I do love all the young comics. Like it's such it still feel like it's a bit of a boys' club, but there's so many really funny, amazing women coming up who are just like the world's their oyster. Where I felt like I was a little, I'd have the vibe of you're not going to get it because you're a woman, or you're only getting it because you're a woman. You know what I mean? Like you can win. So.
I want to talk a little bit about the passing of Mike Bullard, not Mike altogether, but he had that show.
Yes.
And the show was on CTV, and then it went to Global, and it was the late 90s. And I thought it was a pretty important show, no matter what we thought about the show.
Yeah.
Just it was an opportunity for Canadians to see ourselves.
Showcase. Yes, absolutely. And there's never been one since.
What's up with that?
I don't know. You know what? The Comedy Network is just literally full of just old reruns of Friends and Big Bang Theory, and American shows. And CTV still airs my comedy now, which I shot in 2002, which I'm talking about Mike Harris and breastfeeding. Like, just stop. It's just, it's so inappropriate, and they're just like there's just nothing new. It's sad. It was a great, Mike was amazing with the crowd. That's what he did. He had amazing writers on. It was shot at the Masonic Temple. It was a great studio. They always got audiences there. It was just a really fun time where we were celebrating ourselves. And we're just, we don't have Rick Mercer anymore. We don't have, like, so many shows have gone, and nothing's replaced them.
So you've been across the country a number of times.
Yes. Oh, my God. Yes.
Yeah. Tell me about the comedy and how it binds us together, because I find in Canada, this will exclude Quebec, by the way, we don't really have a sense of self. But Rick Mercer managed to do it.
Yeah.
Mike Bullard, yourself, just there are comedians there who we are tied to, that we know, that we understand, that we can all laugh together. But it's a big country.
It is a big country. Population small, so spread out. When I first started touring, it was interesting because I definitely, this is in the early 2000s. Like 20 years ago. Oh, God, help me. I know. I remember as a kid, just a side note, trying to figure out what year it would be when I turned 30. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, my God. And then I'm like, oh, my God. But definitely, I think when I first started, the most interesting thing was there was no internet. So small towns were small towns. And that, I think, has changed. It's brought us closer together. We know what's going on in each province. I never really thought about the Vancouver or Alberta. When I was a kid, you sort of studied it a little bit in geography, but you didn't know about it. Now I find, it's way more cohesive. So I feel like we care about each other or we hate each other. It's one or the other. Really. I live in Toronto. Apparently everyone hates us. So
Confirmed.
See? And so it's interesting. I feel like I'm so grateful for this country, just looking at what's going on in the world. And I feel like we are together. I feel like a lot of politicians want to divide us more than the people wanting to divide us.
Yeah, I think they use Twitter to do it, which is too bad because Twitter can be a really funny place.
Well, it used to be.
Yeah.
Now that Elon's, so you know what? There's a new app that I'm just about to get. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, so it's Blue Sky.
Yeah. So I think I'm leaving Twitter, going to Blue Sky.
Well, if you can, check out my newsletter, which gave all sorts of instructions on what to do on Blue Sky and some of the tips and tricks that went out.
Oh, stop.
So one of the things, this is so geeky.
Yeah, go on.
But you can actually make your domain be your handle. So your handle can be katedavis.ca.
Wow.
Is that your
Yeah.
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 So all you need to do is call the person in charge of your website domain. You can add a little
Yeah.
text string, and then it will happen. And there you go.
Wow,
So
amazing.
I know, little fun hack I learned
Yeah,
recently.
guys. See? I
Yeah.
love it. Look, I'm just
Well, I expect to see you there by the end of the day.
yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think Canada is united. I think politicians and all that really tries to divide us, and like I get people's livelihoods are, embodied in their provinces and their main industries, but I do feel like we have to be conscious of what's going on in the world and climate change and language and all that. But I love all the provinces. I've literally been across every single province, every territory, every little town, and we have an incredible country. We really do.
Are you still getting a check from CTV if they rerun one of your appearances from 2002?
Okay, they rerun it all the time, and no, we're not.
Fuck.
Yeah. So I don't know how they're getting away with that.
So that really sort of leads to something that sits inside of me, and that's that when Canadians talk and it's considered art, it's not really sort of considered art. It's just people talking. But if this were the music industry and you've got albums and you've got a podcast and you've got a whole bunch of stuff, it's just not treated the same. And I look at radio stations, they take the music off the air and then they put comedy on and nobody's getting a check for that. It's insane.
No. Yeah, it is insane. I mean, Sound Exchange, which is in the States, picks up all my comedy albums and stuff like that. And they'll even if it's on the web somewhere, they'll pick it up and give me money. But definitely there has to be stricter laws. Not that they're giving us anything to be on anymore. And actually, we just got, because Sandra Battellini, who started the lobbying for all comics for us to be recognized as an art form, because we are not recognized as an art form. So we couldn't apply for any grants. We couldn't apply for this or that. So we just became, and we bring so much money into this country. Every bar has an open mic, not even just the comedy clubs or the festivals. So, and Winnipeg has one of the best comedy festivals in the country now.
And Montreal too, another one.
Well, yeah, but it went bankrupt.
That's right. And of course, bankrupted by the people who have screwed this up in the first place.
Yeah, who made it American, who wouldn't give any Canadians any respect, anything, except for a handful. And it's I get it. It's an international festival, but you're getting all the money from the Canadian government. You might want to support Canadians a bit more. Maybe do a new faces where they can see American agents.
Yeah. Well, you're too kind not to call them out, but I don't mind saying Bell Media. Thanks for nothing.
Yeah. They really have not stepped up at all. What Letterkenny and, maybe Son of Critch, but that might be CBC. I'm not sure. Yeah.
You make appearances on The Debaters. That's a live show. How do you stay sharp for that?
Oh my God, so much fun. People have done way more than me, but I've done over 20, and I have to say, I love it. It just, it gets your brain working, and it's a lot of fun. And I mean, it's taped in front of a live audience, but it's a radio show, which just kills me that a radio show is a hit show. Like if I mention that in my intro, people are like, oh, I'm like, how is everyone listening to the radio? Well, people older, but there are younger people who really love it too. So it's been really nice.
I get the feeling when I'm doing nothing on a Saturday night and watching CNN that they have a show called Have I Got News for You? And I said, yeah, it feels like somebody pinched that.
They did. They pinched it from England.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the same name, everything. Same concept. Yeah, it's a British show. It's where they get all their shows. It's where they got Three's Company and Shameless and you name it, they got it. Yeah.
You do corporate gigs.
Yes, I do.
And man, that's a tough crowd.
I guess. You know what? I actually love it. I have to say it's like my comedy, but everything I believe in. and just the power that humor has to create an incredible work culture. So I actually, I don't find it that difficult. I actually find it really inspiring. And sometimes I go into government agencies. I'm like, oh, you all have a pension. I'm so jealous. But I actually, and across all industries, whether it's, Ministry of Natural Resources, where I'll start off my show by going, they'll all they look like Duck Dynasty. Right. And I'm like, you guys look so dumb, but you're so smart, because they all have they're all, scientists, but they like fishing. They're those guys. Or I did a show for the Sighted Hearing Society where it's just like all their kids are, disabled. They can't hear, they can't see. And I was like, how am I starting this show off? Because I talk about my kids a bit, and I'm like, my kids are normal, but their kids are normal to them. So I ended up starting it by, I do have kids. They are sighted and hearing kids, but half the time you wouldn't know it, So it's always just trying to find a way to connect. But I really do believe in what I'm talking about and the power it has to, increase trust, collaboration, innovation, resiliency, retention, all those things that every CEO wants, So I'm actually really enjoying it. And it's changed a lot. I've spent the last year or two really changing what I do and my messaging and just growing with what's out there and what people are dealing with. We're living in a time where, I used to get so excited when people asked me out. And now we're living in a time where people are really excited when their plans are canceled, like it's different.
And you're always about the moment. So I think back to, I think the second album you did that was tested positive, which was during the pandemic.
Yes.
But you grabbed the moment.
Yeah, like I literally, it's a COVID album. And by the way, I was patient zero. I literally had COVID March 11th of 2020. And
where'd you get that?
Victoria, BC. I got
really?
in BC. I was gigging. You know what? It was like that week was just when things were starting to get. Look, I lived through czars. We just got cheap hotels and went swimming all day. Like it didn't. Like that's what I thought this was going to be. And I phoned the club and I'm like, I was playing Hecklers in Victoria and I'm like, is this still happening? They're like, we're sold out. There's not a case on the island. Well, that changed pretty fast. So I just, with all the lockdowns, I was doing clubs. I was gigging behind plexiglass at 50% capacity. And I wanted to just do the moment. I'd written a lot of jokes about it. And after living through it so soon, I think I had a different perspective on it.
You have a podcast to go along with books and albums, and the show is called Humor in the C-Suite. Why did you want to start a podcast?
You know what? I just, first of all, really practically to add value to what I'm doing. But second of all, I feel like a lot of C-suite people now, leaders, business owners, are relating differently to how they have to be in the corporate environment. You used to be scared of your boss. It used to be you didn't talk to your boss. Now, the number one thing, especially Gen Zers are saying, is I want my boss to talk like a real person. Like these kids are setting boundaries, and CEOs and leaders are listening. And people, if you want to be competitive in this year or this decade, I think, AI is making or the internet's making everything very level field. I say as a joke, just this morning, Matt, I diagnosed 3 diseases, redesigned my kitchen, and read 4 books in 12 minutes. Like knowledge isn't that powerful anymore, but connection is. Right. And what's going to set you apart to make that sale, to close that deal? It's going to be being yourself and having a sense of humor as a part of it. Definitely. So it's just been a really nice way to sort of incorporate everything I do.
What diseases did you diagnose yourself with recently? Let's compare.
Well, I had a pain in my arm. No, I don't know.
I had no, seriously, this was something last night. I was like, oh, I've got throat cancer.
Oh my God, stop. You can't. But I am that person. I'm very vocal about, I've had that many times. And I'm having a stroke, and then it's just my hands cold, and on and on. Don't Google diseases. Don't diagnose yourself. That should be a rule.
And don't go to Dr. Google.
Don't go to Dr. Google. You'll think you're dying immediately.
I look at some of the younger people that you have on your show.
Yeah.
They are bright, swift.
Yeah.
And they've already learned a lot about people before the age of 30 or 35.
Yeah.
Danny Goldberg, for instance, stands out.
Yes.
Yes. What do you find fascinating about those young upstart people who build their business and...
God, I'm so jealous.
Me too.
Oh, damn it. Why didn't anyone tell me? You know what? I definitely feel like that's chutzpah, first of all. Second of all, like so inspiring. I just, this kid was on the news who invented vending machines that have first aid kits in them. And they just tried to buy his business for $30 million, and he said no. I'm like, where are your parents? Where are your parents? Just amazing. Yeah, some of the guests, I'm just like, how? And then they're onto a totally different, they're just onto a totally different career by the time they're 30. They're done with that business. But I think it comes from real authenticity. At that age, you're just yourself. People are charmed by your age, and just like, all right. It's like that little kid, Max Couture, and he's like he's 8, and he's already doing, selling clothes and on the runway at Paris. And like, some people are just meant to be what they're doing.
2025, what do you have on the calendar? I would have said Rolodex. I would have said, on the those paper calendars, but we're past that now. What is inside your iPhone for 2025?
You know what? On a professional level, just to get as many events as I can to grow the podcast. I still do I'd say out of my 52 weeks, I'll probably do about 10 weeks of stand-up still. That's minus the open mics, obviously. But I'm headlining Absolute Comedy in Toronto for New Year's and that whole week. And then I just have a bunch of speaking gigs, but on a personal level, I just really want to always keep creating, be innovative with myself and be honest with myself. It's hard to let go of old things that work, and just to grow and live to my potential at, I'm in my 50s at my age. I don't even feel like I've written my best joke. So I'm just going to keep going and hopefully growing and inspiring people. And really, I'm really looking forward to doing more work in the U.S. Just because there's so many more people and so many more companies, and in Europe. So just going more global for myself, and just, being the best kind person I can be, I guess. I don't know.
Kate, thanks so much for doing this today and getting up early to be on the show.
Oh, see, it's already 11:30 here. Been up for hours, Matt. I'm on it. This has been such a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to You May Also Like. You may also like our website at youmayalsolike.net. The show is produced by Evan Serminski and built for your ears by everyone at the Sound Off Media Company.